Hey everyone, welcome to Shunya One, episode 185. We are talking to Saahil Goel, the founder of Shiprocket. If you haven't heard of them, you probably definitely use or interact with some layer of software that Shiprocket powers today in your day-to-day, whether it's you placing an order from a D2C website or probably even interacting with a courier service or anyone coming to deliver something at your home. Shiprocket is a 10-year-old company. Saahil and his co-founders have been building this over the years. We had a very, very interesting chat about all the various cycles that he's seen and how his company and his products have pivoted and innovated over the years. Today, they're a $1 billion plus valued company, and they power some of the biggest e-commerce brands in India that you probably know about. So it was a really interesting conversation. Let's take a break and come back and hear Saahil talk about his journey. Hi, Saahil. Welcome to Shunya One. How are you doing today?
Very well, Shiladitya. Thank you for having me.
No, it's great to have you here, and look forward to the conversation. A whole bunch of stuff to probably ask you as an entrepreneur who's been building your company for almost 10 years or over 10 years now?
Over 10 years now, yes.
Amazing. And so I always ask, people on my show to give us a little bit of context setting as to, your journey and the reasons behind your choosing to build this company out. But I think it'll be really great to hear your origin story a little bit, because given the journey you've had so far, probably the internet has changed in these past 10 years. So you've seen cycles. Love to hear how it was at the start and, where you are today.
No, absolutely. My pleasure, Shiladitya. Happy to kind of talk about how we got here. I spent some time working in enterprise tech in India as well as the US, but always wanted to build for the internet, and I used to build websites since I was early in school, and that kind of stayed with me even through my professional career on the side, obviously. And then in 2011, we, Gautam and I, who were together in college, had been debating on a few ideas in terms of what we were very keen to start something, weren't really happy with being stuck in a structured kind of environment. And he was an SMB himself, he had a very strong view on the India market overall, strong view on digitization. I had chanced upon Shopify back in 2011. When they were really small, but super cool product, like it was just brilliant what they had done. And that became a bit of a eureka in my head, saying that, look, India would have, tens of millions of small businesses, and they will want a way to sell independently to the buyer, and the same thing was happening offline. I'd worked for a bit at Walmart, so kind of understood retail, then understood that kind of phenomena wasn't going to happen in India because we are so high touch and so demographically unique that independent businesses will always have a way to sell direct. And if that's what's going to happen offline, then why wouldn't it happen online? And with that macro thesis, kind of launched the company in 2012. We called it Cart Rocket back in the day because we were basically emulating Shopify, for a lack of a better word. And we felt that it had worked in the West and it would work in India as well. So we built the product, kind of realized we were like many years early to the market. But once you've dived in. This is a time when Amazon hadn't officially launched yet. Flipkart was still a very promising young startup, right? We would have to answer questions about why merchants should go online. So now in today's day and age, it seems quite weird that why would anyone ask that? But in 2012, that was the largest challenge. Our competition was against not being online, right? It wasn't about sort of, should I be on a marketplace, or there just weren't that many options to begin with. And I think within a few years, we understood that having a full-fledged website, managing it yourself, SaaS billing, none of those things were sitting well with the users. We did scale it to about 1,000 users with heavy churn. Most people would leave saying, look, I'm not getting any orders. This is not like an offline shop where people walk in, no one's walking in, and it's not happening because the digital marketing awareness was also very, very early. You couldn't just fire up Facebook ads like you can today. And that got us thinking, in terms of, we had not, in our definition, made a huge impact because we wanted to go to hundreds of thousands of sellers. Gautam and I would walk around and look at various retailers and say they should all be online. And we were not close to, kind of that kind of impact. So we started thinking what we could do. By this time, Jio had happened, right?
Yeah.
Smartphones were cheaper and now available. And this is the time Myntra was trying to go like app only. And this is that period in 2014.
Oh, yes, that.
And we said that, look, eventually all of these merchants that we're talking about are also users, they're individuals. They are available on a mobile platform. Why don't we take our product and take it to a mobile first approach for easy distribution? Let's redo the pricing. DIY was a big element we were trying to crack. So we looked at other aspects of, other platforms rather, such as OLX or Facebook pages to try and understand why are users able to do it there. Like, why are they getting stuck here? And it sounds trivial now, but the reality is it was just dead simple. It was built like a consumer product, and that's why it would work. So we took some of those learnings and relaunched the product under the brand name of Craftly, which is when Akshay joined us as well, who's sort of my fourth co-founder. And Vishesh, who I forgot to mention, had joined us 6 months into the company as a co-founder. And Craftly was, a little bit like today's free website builders that are now very common. But back then it was truly unique. People thought we were crazy, because the website was still considered to be a very desktop kind of a thing. It was still, people don't have a laptop. Why do they need a website? And we, given that we had spent some time kind of with these merchants, spent some time doing that business, we had a pretty clear understanding that, look, it doesn't matter where the buyer is, but eventually if the sellers can't upload catalog, if they can't set anything up, then this is not going to scale. And what was great is, within like a quarter, we had great proof of what we had done. We were able to attract, thousands of merchants. We were seeing 50% rates in terms of people coming in, publishing catalog. We would give them a payment ready, a shipping ready kind of a micro site. They could point their domain. We did some intelligence there. And it was very basic. We took away the customization elements and we said, look, this is what you get. They're like 10 templates. That's it. You can't do much. And that actually worked quite a bit, except that people got zero orders again. And that's when we had to figure out a way to bring demand. So we built a Facebook ad engine. We ran campaigns on Facebook. We figured out a co-op audience. We did bidding. We did all of that stuff. We managed the pixels. We then built a Google ad engine as well. We partnered with, I'm going to forget their name. We partnered with another tech platform who had some of the parts of that. So we were really trying to figure out how we do this. And we did scale it to like 100,000, 150,000 odd transactions a month, which is not huge, but it was significant enough to, have us kind of understand the full cycle. So we had done everything from high-end websites, if you will, when we had launched, to now like, 50,000 microsites that were running on the platform, understood the checkout journey really well, understood the shipping journey really well. And one of the things we understood is that, it was still the times of 80% cash on delivery. So we had to work really hard to kind of make every delivery happen, because it became a fully commission-based kind of a model. That's how we got sellers through the door. There was no SaaS. Like, nobody wanted to pay us any SaaS.
No one wanted platform fees. Yeah.
No one wants to pay. They want you to make money when they make money. So we said, let's not fight the tide. Let's go with what our user base wants, and let's figure out how we can do it within the bounds of our fundamentals. Obviously, Amazon, Flipkart were the other option, which a lot of the market did go to as a seller, and many of them did both. They would be like, well, I want a direct channel, but I also want a way to sell on the marketplace to scale my business. And Amazon and Flipkart obviously made huge investments in supply chain themselves. We couldn't do that. We were a young company, sort of had raised some VC money, but not for that. So what we did instead is we basically started hacking every step of the supply chain, started working deeply with some courier partners in the beginning, and started to understand where things fail. And whatever we could do at our end using data, using workflows, using a lot of backend SOPs, Excel files, whatever it is, to try and make that process very seamless, whether it's a failed pickup or a delay in transit, or a last mile issue, or a lack of delivery at the last mile, or a consumer saying no, or the return journey, and so on. I think we did a lot of good work there because we understood that, one, there was a lot of work to be done. And we understood that, look, the consumer doesn't care in the end, whether they are buying on, Shiladitya's website or Amazon, they still want to have a certain degree of experience delivered to them. So much so that a lot of merchants started writing to us saying that, look, I process 50 orders on your platform, but I have another 300-400 that I'm doing outside. I don't need help with anything else, but I'm not able to ship properly.
Just
And
fulfillment.
I'm not able to collect cash on delivery. Reconciliation is a problem for me. I don't know who to call. Why don't you just give me your shipping separately? And you know how it is. Like when you've built a full stack platform, you don't actually understand the power of one part of the platform. So
Right.
you keep ignoring it for some time, saying that, look, just put those orders here,
Right.
And merchants like, I don't want to put my orders here. I already have them working. I may be generating them on WhatsApp for all you know. I don't want to change that.
Right.
I just want to ship. Why don't you let me just ship my orders? So after some resistance, then we finally kind of got around to it. And in the middle of 16, we started writing the shipping layer. I mean, just basically decoupled it, built it into a standalone microservice, then built a dashboard and app on top of it to say, okay, let's see, right? And a lot of learning that we had done in terms of, the entire journey of the shipment, given that we were sort of responsible for managing those shipments. So we had to take care of RTO. We would look at buyer scores. We would look at a bunch of things because every time a shipment got delivered, we made money. So the incentives were fully aligned, right? And the product that came out on day one, and we didn't actually think it was a great thing because we said, oh, this is obvious, this is how everyone does it. We didn't realize how much power we had packed into it because it was just a Craftly engine that kind of got repurposed. And there were so many use cases. Now that I think about it, as an independent merchant who doesn't want to sell on any marketplace, let's say, they needed those features and they were just there day one. We didn't have to build on top of it. Like a lot of that was there day one. And we launched in 17 and by middle of 18, we shut everything else off. So because it scaled so rapidly for us, where we were like, okay, we didn't even realize that this was such a huge problem. So that's kind of how we landed through two pivots, almost running out of money a couple of times on Shiprocket. And our macro thesis continued to be that, look, people need a way to sell independently. We need to democratize the tools for selling independently. Sure, we thought people would need a website and that's their main choke point. But later we realized that that was not the big deal, where people were able to figure that out. Payments by that time had become more or less easy. But really, when it came to the entire shipping and the experience connected with it, that's where things were breaking down. So that part of the stack or the infrastructure or the software infrastructure of shipping just wasn't there. There was no plugin to say, okay, I can get my Shopify store up in one day, Facebook ads in one day, Razorpay in one day, and then where's this? Like it wasn't there. So I think that sort of became our go-to market in a big way. And we started with the long tail, then moved up to say, oh, I should be serving every website owner. Then it was like, well, what about the larger website owners? So you kind of, then the journey obviously within Shiprocket started to take us forward.
Wow. I mean, you've really condensed, I think, the 10 years of both learnings and experience into this to what you are today. And it sounds also now in retrospect, probably very obvious that yes, someone had to solve for this, right? Someone had to build this part of the stack, saw the market unfold on your original thesis also. I mean, today we're sitting in the day and age of D2C being a full-fledged part of e-commerce, very promising part of e-commerce, in fact. When you were doing this sort of unbundling and you chose and you realized that the market, your audience was telling you, this is something I need solved. What was the state of the art at the time? Like what else existed in the market which made this something which others had not attempted? Like, was it the physical aspect of it? Like, was it team management? Was it on field force? Like, what was that big hairy problem which made people like not try to crack this earlier?
I think it was none of that, to be very honest. I think the market was so small that it just didn't show up, right, in anyone's radar. And the second thing was that this problem is so nuanced. And by the way, now there are companies like us across the world. And when I meet those founders, not one of those founders started this business as the first business because it's not apparent. Like it doesn't seem like a problem. You say, okay, well, I need logistics and there's logistics companies. So what is this? Right? But really,
why another layer?
Why do you need this? Right? But the reality is it's a way there's so many variables that need to be optimized, managed. There's so much to do in between that there's software, decision-making workflow, and then there's like people, vehicle, space, like infrastructure. There's two things altogether. and they are not necessarily the same thing. Like they're not going to automatically work. So I think that is not a easily appreciable problem, and which is why no one really cared to solve it across the world, by the way, right? There were SaaS tools that we looked at in the US that were doing something very different. They were saying, okay, we can do omni-channel order management, we'll do inventory management, and we have an integration with FedEx. Very different from saying, but hold on, which carrier should be using when, which pin codes need to be served when, who covers which pin codes, where can people pick up, where can they drop, where can they collect COD, where does the quality get deteriorated? And it was a moving sort of coverage, right? So how do we get the best of it and build the largest network by saying, look, I'm going to partner with everybody. Carriers didn't have APIs that were robust. Their statuses would break. Tracking still breaks, right? So how do you make sense of it? Because if the order is delivered, the buyer says, I got it. The carrier says, no, it's still in transit. Now, how do you close that loop? Because if you don't deliver it, the seller doesn't get paid for the cash on delivery. How do you kind of manage that? So there's so much happening in between that there is a need for an experience platform or a gateway, if you will, to say, look, I'm going to represent you as a merchant and I'm going to get you access to all of the carriers in India and I'll help you optimize sort of your supply chain. So I think the gold standard, if you ask me, was Amazon, right? I think they continue to be. So they were the go-to, in terms of, well, of course, not the same way, but what experience are they delivering to the end consumer and what are they doing for it? And how do we as a tech-first company, ecosystem first company attack the same problem by going to every partner in India and saying, look, I want to build this. I don't want to do the actual groundwork, but I want to do the software work. Why can't we partner and take this experience and make it democratized? So I think that was the motion, more or less, but we unfortunately had to solve every problem, for what it was worth. First, principally, we couldn't look at, okay, let's look at X company and X economy and modify it. It was actually I would say a fairly daunting task at the time, because like everything had to be thought through. Like, how do you collect money, for example? When someone comes shipping your way, how do you collect 100 rupees? Like you can't have collection calls, right? So we built a shipping wallet, right? Which again was a bit crazy at that time, saying, look, people always pay later for shipping. We said, yeah, but I can't collect $100. So I have to build a wallet where you deposit money and I'll deduct money and only then I'll let you ship. Right. And today it is a standard way of everyone does it this way, right? How do you handle weight frauds, for example? Somebody can send a 10 kilo packet and say it's half a kilo. You'll charge half a kilo. You have no visibility, but eventually the carrier charges you for 10 kilos. How do you kind of identify that? So that took a series of interventions, and we can talk about it. But so I think it was which is why it wasn't one of those, that, this was the incumbent and we did this better. It was like, it's a small market. No one really cares about these people. I remember going to journalists and saying, look, we are powering D2C. And like, what's D2C? So investors didn't know. People would ask me that, why wouldn't people just buy on Amazon? I said, why don't we have a Walmart? Like it's the same thing, right? And that conviction, of course, is hard when you're like the only one saying it. But with time, I think for us, we could see the trend. Like when we saw conversion numbers going like, okay, 100 leads, 20 have paid. Like that's crazy. I've not seen that happening in a long time. Or when you see retention cohorts go to like 200% in revenue, something's happening, right? So I think that gave us a lot of confidence that, look, we don't know how big this becomes, but this is needed. Like people need this. So as long as D2C is there, they are going to need this. So that for us was the only sort of way we kept at it.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. In fact, some of the things you mentioned about that incremental solve, right? And also the fact that it was a small market. Most VCs or founders are sort of ingrained to think that, I must go after a big market. And I guess you also started that way. And then saw that this little sliver of market was also something potentially large. And of course, the proof is that, you are $1 billion plus company. So I think that's more than proven itself.
I think it's my biggest learning, Shiladitya. And like you said, for us, it was no different saying, okay, let's go after something everyone wants. The reality is when everyone wants something, everyone also wants to serve them. So to build I'm not saying don't chase a large market, but I'm saying what at least I've learned personally is to not start there, because it's just that much harder. You would rather sort of be resilient in a small pond, be the big fish, if you will. And the rest comes from there, right? So you start there and then you say, okay, well, now I want to go a step further. versus getting bogged down in a hyper competitive, razor thin margin market and then just be like, well, I can't do it. At least that's given that we did both things in the same journey.
Correct.
I've at least come to appreciate that a lot. And even now, when we build new products, we'll always go after the set of merchants or users who would die if we didn't have it, right? And only build for them. Don't worry about X enterprise wants that. You just pick the guys who want it. They could be a 500 user base for all we care. But first, make it work in a way that they can't do without it. And then you start figuring out, well, who else can I sell this to, or how many people are there such. And we made mistakes too. We built stuff that actually only 500 people wanted and no one else wanted. So that's okay. But I think it's easier to do that than the other.
No, thanks so much for that insight, Sahil. I think, being in the business for 10 years, obviously, you must have, like you said, made some wrong turns, but it's great to see that, it ended up in the right direction and, of course, scaling so well. On this note, I'm going to take a quick break and come back and continue the conversation. Hey, welcome back, everyone. In conversation with Saahil here from Shiprocket. Saahil, you've built the company over these 10 years, like you said, doing various pivots. There's obviously a long way to go, I'm sure, as the industry has sort of evolved with you, or you've seen the evolution of e-commerce in India from the super early days to the super mature version of it that it is today. I'm sure there's more headroom where when you look at what's out there and what you're building, and you've just come off, let's say, an acquisition that you've just made also in the space. And is this the early signs of some consolidations? Are you the big fish in a big pond now? How do you look at the rest of the challenges ahead?
So I'll try and answer it first from a vision perspective, and then maybe try and answer it more tactically. See, I think as we solved for shipping, in the whole direct commerce space, and when we define direct commerce, it's actually every transaction that's happening directly between a seller and their buyer, right? So it could be a long tail micro seller on WhatsApp. It could be an independent business selling offline and online. It could be D2C and online first brands, and can be a lot of the offline omni-channel brands that have a portion of their sales going directly to the buyer. So for all of those guys, what we found is that while shipping continues to be the kernel of the problem, and that's where a lot of the innovation and optimization is needed, but really the journey starts a little bit earlier and ends a little bit later. So we started sort of looking at the entire journey, and again, look at the gold standard, let's say Amazon. And we started to notice that the issue starts right from the product page, because that's the first time you have items entering the transaction. You now need to know, where is this item, right? You now need to know, is it lying in my warehouse, merchant's warehouse? You need to know who the buyer is, right? Should I give them a promise for tomorrow? Can I do it tomorrow? If I promise them tomorrow and I fail, what do I do? And so on. So now you need a real world plug right on the product page through the checkout. You need to figure out fraud, who should get COD, who shouldn't get COD. Is the address quality correct? Are they missing a house number? Are they missing a lane number? Further down into the actual allocation of the order, right? Is it with the merchant location, our location, now a shop location, thanks to the Omni integration? Yeah. Do I have the view of the inventory or do I not? When do I tell the buyer it's coming, right? Can I actively and proactively message the buyer on WhatsApp? Which channel should I message the buyer? What happens in transit? Which carrier should take it? And that's where the shipping leg comes in. And then finally, you have the last mile leg, you have the returns leg, you have customer service, you have supply chain financing, insurance, packaging, refunds, loyalty. There's so much happening in that post-purchase leg of the journey that we realize that this whole thing is not there, because it's just, like I said, the same thing. It's underappreciated. Consumers are used to a certain way on Amazon. There aren't enough tech providers solving for the whole thing, at least not in a seamless way. So what we started to look out for was saying, how do I build an Amazon-like consumer experience, right? And I want to do it only on the ecosystem, because I can't win. I can't build everything. It's impossible. So how do we become the glue for this stack and say, look, we are like an OS, like a post-purchase OS. Plug us. We'll bring every provider you need. We'll standardize this. We'll build it in a single price, easy to use, orchestrate the whole thing, and take ownership. So think of like if Amazon, spends like a third or more of their resources on working this post-purchase, through supply chain, intelligence, information, software, people. If they were to carve it out like AWS, and now they are a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But if they were to carve it out and sell it like a service, that's kind of what we started to think like, saying, look, and I want to do this, except that we want to take the ecosystem along. Like we're not going to reinvent and build a payments layer. Like it's impossible to do it.
Correct.
We are not going to reinvent and build a shopping cart. We can't build an insurance company. So we started to build a network of providers to say, look, work with me. I've got all of these merchants. Let's solve this use case for them end to end, and bring the superior consumer experience on the table and make it available for everybody and fully unbundled. So you don't have to actually buy the whole thing. You can say, I just want to buy, your speed detection API or whatever, right? So it can be something as unbundled as that, all the way through some large brands who take the whole thing. Just saying, look, I just want to deal with this. Do it for me. Get your providers. You take the ownership. Just improve my experience, improve my return rates, improve my NPS, and so on. So I think that's the vision looking out. And as you'll appreciate, we are probably like 4 on 10 on the stack, maybe 5 on 10, because we zoomed out and now there's like, oh shit, there's so much more work to do. And in that journey, there's some things which are core to us, which are going to revolve around shipping and shipping tech. And there are lots of things which are not core, but are very important. So the view is to sort of build or buy things that are core to this part of the transaction, and then continue to partner on everything else, but to be able to make all else available to the merchant, at scale. So that's sort of the journey, and that's where the latest acquisition dovetails, very squarely. Where Omni is a great. So they kind of do what we do, but they do it for offline brands and retailers, where they convert a store, like a physical store, into a point of fulfillment. We have an ability, we have strong supply chain rails. We can get the best delivery option. We can do it in an hour, right? If the brand wants to pay for it, we can do it in the same day. We can do it the next day. And we have a control over being able to do that. And we have components of the rest of the stack. So it's a great opportunity for us to sort of be able to take what we have, take it to, marry it with their platform, and hence get an entry into serving the offline brand market, which up until now is not something we've been doing well.
Yeah, I think even the offline brands, obviously, what Omni served, and the market that exists for offline brands, obviously went through a very interesting phase over the last 2 years, when I think there is no brand which does not have a mirror in the digital world, at least. So now, correct?
Because
that was leading my next question. Has that caused, let's say, an upsurge for your potential entry into this space?
Yeah, so I think I'll talk about, so just the whole COVID situation, right? I think few trends we observed, and I'll talk about it from different segments perspectives, right? So let's talk about the brands first, given that we started there. So I think what happened is, up until 2020 March, right? People, and given that we used to build websites too, we have that vintage as well, right? Okay. So we would go to brands, early days, CartRocket days, Crafty days, and all the brands wanted it. They all said, yeah, I want to have a website, but they all looked at it like a marketing. Okay, I'll publish my sales calendar here. People can come and sign up, and you put my catalog, but I don't want to update it. I don't want to actually sell from the website, because it was one, the ecosystem wasn't there too. Let's kind of be mindful. The components weren't fully there. The brands were directing all their budgets to sort of an offline first, and it was working for them, man. So until COVID, and then people said, oh, hold on, this is not just marketing. This is actually a sales channel. They're like another distributor that I have that can actually now distribute stuff for me, but it's a different way to think about it. So a lot of the brands started hiring e-commerce heads, sales heads, not just marketing guys. So I think that was a big shift, where we started now interacting. When we talk to brands, they had an e-commerce head, and it was just their marketing guy who had 6 things under them. And this was, this is the website. So it was no longer the website. It became the online store, which I thought was a great move that happened in this period. And that's now obviously transforming into saying, well, I want to do this, but I need inventory managed properly. I can't take an order and then not have stock in the store. How do I manage the store personnel so they are not sort of getting all confused about how to handle customers. What happens when a customer has an item in their hand, so it's not yet scanned? Do I count it in stock or not? So there's a lot of interesting problems that arise that can be solved with easy algorithms and easy data science. So I think I think it's like, if you look at direct commerce in the US, there's a Pitney Bowes report. It's about 50% today of all US digital commerce. 50% is direct, right?
Oh, wow.
Of that 50%, I know, I was also surprised. A big 30% of that, I mean, not so 30% of 100 is actually brand.com. So like Nike, Decathlon, whatever.
Yeah.
And the 25% is by the D2C brands. So in India, the brand.com commerce right now is very nascent.
Very, very.
D2C brands have obviously grown, right, over the last 3-4 years. COVID also propelled them forward. Correct. Lots of people became brands during that period. Lots of people pivoted their online and offline businesses to say, okay, I'm sitting at home. What can I do to make a living? And we saw a huge surge of entrepreneurs who basically said, look, I've figured out a manufacturer. Can you, in fact, that's how our warehousing business started as well, because people said, I don't have the operations capability. I'm a great brand guy, or I know how to source well. I can market it, but that's it. I don't know anything else. So that's how our first warehouse came about in Bangalore in 2020. And now obviously we have about 40 locations where we store goods and dispatch them the next day, same day, and so on, to build an Amazon Prime like offering. So a lot happened in the pandemic. I know a lot of people, like even us personally, it's like a black hole for 2 years. But if I look at the business, like a lot of what we are today happened during that time, because it just, like, sheer scale was one reason. We started noticing sheer scale, and that just sort of gives you that much more to work with, that many more use cases, that much more appetite and confidence, to be honest, in your own business. So I think
innovation. I think that's what happened for people. It forced people to innovate.
Absolutely.
Faster.
Absolutely. So we saw, we were like, if we sign up 7,000 to 8,000 brands a month, we were seeing 15, 17, 18,000 paid acquisitions every month, and at like 1/4 the cost, because there was just that much more people searching. Like there was just that many more people saying, I want to start a business, I want to collect COD, I want to ship easily, whatever, right? So that was a very clear trend that was present during the lockdown.
You guys are now obviously a very large, let's say, multi-product offering, obviously core SaaS sort of a business, but I'm sure there are various offshoots of it. You probably had to go through this, and I ask this purely from a understanding of SaaS in India perspective, right? There is a very different persona when you go after, let's say, SMB, I think, which is what you initially put your thesis to, and then when you go up the stack and have to deal with the enterprises. Since you mentioned you're obviously working with even the brand.coms of the world who are used to enterprise stack products. And then at the same time, your breadth is from the SMB. Have you seen that as a interesting, let's say, contrast in the way you do your own product building or customer service, or obviously all the layers to your business?
Absolutely, it's a constant ongoing debate. It's not even like, I don't even think we have a solve yet, to be very honest, right? And I'll tell you, I think we've always considered ourselves as a SaaS company. We may look like a platform or a services platform or whatever, but the reality is we still build like a SaaS company, but we build like a platform, because that's just the way SMB SaaS in India has to work. I'm sure people will figure it out over time. I'm not saying that's the way, at least we found it to work, where we saw that, look, if we can build this in a metered way, it'll work. And with SMBs, they actually want bundling, right? They want choice, but they want one person to take it over. They are happy paying for outcomes, but they want you to put in the money and the risk. They're okay with watered down versions of a lot of the products, but they want it through one place and no hassle. So it's like, just take this. I'm okay with 7 on 10. Just do it and get out of my way. I only have one person. Don't waste my time. It's a little bit like that. With enterprises, obviously the dynamic changes because they do have teams, right? And they do have different requirements. And I think the thing that at least we are watching out for a lot, right, is just sort of, given that we've always been a factory of products. Like we've always built cookie cutter stuff that just works out of the box. We faced a lot of initial challenge saying, but they want us to wire on these APIs and like it's only a use case of one. Like why should we do it?
Yeah.
And then we resisted it for a long time until we realized that, but this is how the industry works. Like if that one customer is worth like 500 SMBs, then you should wire on that API, right? So, so I think, and then the teams weren't there. The guys who build product don't want to do that, right? So you need a solutions team. Correct. So I think those are the changes we saw. The other thing that I think was good for us is we actually never actively imagined us going to the enterprise. It kind of happened because a lot of our SMBs grew, and when they grew, some of them became very, very big, right? Correct. And then you don't want to leave them. You're like, oh, hold on. You've grown from 2,000 orders to 200,000 orders a month. Let me figure out a way to serve you, right? And a lot of it happens in conjunction. Like they'll tell you what they want. They're a great customer. You have a relationship. So you keep building in tandem with them. And they've built in tandem with you, by the way, right? Correct. So, but what you do is once you do it with 1 and 2 and 3, and then you realize that, well, if I can do it for them, how different is the guy who's already at that scale going to be? So that's when we kind of said, okay, let's try and see if we can add value there and so on. I think the key thing is with enterprises, their appreciation for intelligence, workflow, tech, analytics, reporting is much, much higher, right? Because they truly are willing to pay for stuff like that because they know it can help them grow top line, reduce costs in the bottom line, maybe even make them just more scalable, even if it's not just a cost thing, saying, okay, I'm at 25,000 transactions, but to be at 100,000, I can't do it. Like my systems will just fail. So I need something to manage all of this. Versus like if you talk about an SMB or a long tail merchant, for them it's largely about saying, just can you just do it for me? I'm just struggling with so many things as a CEO of this consumer products company. I just don't want to deal with it. So very, very different kind of reason to take the platform. And for us, it's always been about, and now we, I guess, are a little bit clearer saying, look, the rails can't change. So let's figure out what is the core central platform that nobody can touch. And then you've got packaging stuff that you need to do. You need a way to write on top of this for customized use cases. Can we get an implementation partner to do some of those things? Is also something we've been trying to solve. Not successfully yet.
You're truly at the edge of, I guess, the big SaaS stack. Obviously, you play well in the ecosystem. That's great. But yes, when you get into the enterprise play, you are building out a services layer where people will say, I can integrate Shiprocket for you. So it's a great place to be. I know we're almost out of time, which is why I know that there's so much depth in the market, and obviously, like you've seen it all, pretty much seen it change from the 0 to 100 journey that the Indian e-commerce market is at today. Any closing thoughts on what your outlook is? People who are listening to this show, where they can talk to you for feedback. What's the place to reach you? Your Twitter, your LinkedIn, and what to look out for from Shiprocket.
So first of all, I'm most easily reachable on LinkedIn, and my handle is just my name, like my first name, last name. I'm very happy to kind of talk to folks who are listening in for anything at all. I always learn from all interactions. I think for us, it's about commitment to a mission, and that's just something that keeps us going. There have been so many times where we could have just thrown in the towel, and it just didn't feel right because we hadn't done what we set out to do. So you should see us coming up with more and more depth in terms of solving for experiences and breadth to some extent, but on the back of the ecosystem. So we are truly trying to do something groundbreaking. And by the way, a lot of the product strategy is made by the merchants, right? We actually made the mistake of building strategy in a room. And then over the years understood that it's a silly way of doing things. You need to get the merchant in the room, or be in their room rather, to really take a up close and personal look at what is it that they need, and you eventually have to build for them, or the user in this case. I know it sounds very trivial, but it's easy to get caught up. Believe me, as a product person, you can start, drinking your own Kool-Aid and then like, oh, no one buys it. And that nothing is worse in a growing startup than wasting resource. So I think that was just one learning. The other one I already talked about, sort of going after a smaller market when you're early. I think the ability to say no is just super underrated. It's just it's very, very hard to yourself. Forget other people. Because by design, a lot of the entrepreneurs have ideas, and that's the double-edged sword that it is. So I think those are just few things that come to mind, as I think about it. But I think it's a great place to be today in building tech for India. Proud to say that we are fully grounds up, designed for India. I talk about the cycles of Indian tech. You had sort of the first cycle where we were just doing BPO, KPO type stuff. Then we were building products, right? But we were doing it for American companies or global companies, and we were just building it. I think now we are building products for ourselves, which are required in India. We are not saying we are X of India or, we are X unicorn, but done for India. But instead, it's this is for India. It comes out of India.
Correct.
And it's great to see that it's got depth, right? So it's a great time to be doing original thinking, to be going after small problems that may seem small, and then really kind of hunker down and solve for India. And the next phase should be us exporting this stuff, right? Because all emerging world has a similar stack of problems. India is a larger market, very vibrant market. So it's a great place to build, test. And then once you have PMF, there's a bunch of other emerging economies that have similar problems. So I think it's going to that's where I would like to see the next 5 to 10 years, where, the cycle just needs to invert. Again, that's my big hope and wish for the market.
Absolutely. It's happening. I mean, B2B software, like you said, we're not just building it in India, we're consuming it in India. People in India are paying B2B for B2B software. I think it's been a sea change. It's across domains. And obviously you are, Shiprocket is sitting in one of those massively growing sectors of the business, which drives the economy. So
thank you for your kind words.
More power to you and the team. Obviously, for everyone listening, we'll share Saahil's LinkedIn in the blurb here. For wherever you're listening to this podcast, please leave us also a rating and a review. It helps spread the word. And thank you so much, Saahil, for this really engaging conversation. I think we're almost at an hour, and I probably have a dozen more things I could ask you about your business and what the exciting stuff that you guys do. But thank you so much for sharing this. We will obviously see a lot of what you guys have built over the years. We probably interact with it every day. We just don't know it. And but keep building, and congratulations on everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shiladitya. Pleasure being here, and thanks so much for your kind words. Thank you.